Hello, everybody. I'm Barry Johnson. Welcome back to another edition of Studio Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about the new M2 Mac Mini Pro, the base model of it, not the upgraded core version, which sits kind of basically in the middle of the new Mac Minis. You've got the entry-level version, and then you can go up to the Mac Mini Pro, which is the one I'm going to be demonstrating for you today. Before I get into that, do me a favor. If you like the things I talk about on this channel, especially this video, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. Help me grow the channel. I work very hard for you, and I appreciate if you could do that for me back. Okay, let's get on to the business of the discussion at hand. So, like I said before, today's going to be demonstrated in Protools. Now, most of you know who watch my channel, I'm no longer a fan of Avid. I was a 20-year user of TDM/HDX, and in the last year or so, I kind of just moved away from that because I got tired of Avid kind of price gouging its customers. But that said, I think it's important to demonstrate in Pro Tools because a lot of people do use that DAW, and if you do, this is for you. Now, whether or not you use Pro Tools or some other digital audio workstation, the basic fundamental concept of what we're doing today should apply across the board. Yes, some may be somewhat more efficient. So let's talk about efficiency. Today, in the various demonstrations I'm going to do for you, they're done both in the Rosetta version of Avid's recent version of Pro Tools, as well as their Apple Silicon Beta version, really kind of showing the difference, and you're going to get a chance to see what that's like in case you haven't quite moved to that just yet. So in this particular session, this is really going to be based upon audio only. I will be coming out with some more videos that are primarily driven towards virtual instruments and things like that, but that's not today's video. Stay tuned for those. I have done a video on Apple Logic Pro's benchmark test, and that was the first video I put out. There'll be a link down to it below in the description of this video if you haven't seen that already. All right, so the way I've gone about this today is we're going to start with really the maximum number of tracks that we can get with a 1024 buffer in Pro Tools with the Rosetta version. And then after that, I'll demonstrate for you the max number of tracks that we can get out of it using the Silicon Native with all the same settings. And then after that, I'll be demonstrating for you actually recording with the maximum number of tracks. So in other words, if you needed to punch in or do an overdub well into a mix, I'm going to be demonstrating the max that you can get under Rosetta version as well as a Silicon Native, and those will come up after that. Now, keep in mind that every one of the plugins here you'll see in the videos, I've got 5 plugins on every single track that is on Playback. And if I remember correctly, I think we start with an EQ7, then go to a Pro Compressor, followed up by Pultec EQ, then a Real Tape Saturation plugin, and then finally a Deverb. Now, I intentionally picked stock plugins, as I will for all of these for the most part, because what you should be able to do is be able to recreate this exact same session in your particular computer and see how yours stacks up against this one. I think that's the number one question most people are going to have. Should I upgrade to this version, or if I'm considering getting into Apple computers for the very first time, will this one do what I need it to do? And hopefully those questions will be answered today. Now, the first video in this particular series of this, when it comes to Pro Tools, is going to be at 48K. So the examples you're going to see today would apply equally to 44.1 or 48K. If you happen to record at 96K, then that's a video will come out shortly after this demonstrating basically the same concept, but just doing it all at 96K. So we're going to queue this up, okay? And so we're going to start with the first 2 videos, and the first one's going to be the maximum number of playback tracks that you can get with this, with those plugins across all those tracks. You'll see that in the video. We'll start with doing it in Rosetta, and then we'll go to the Silicon version of it, which is more efficient. Let's get to the video. Okay, let's go over to session setup and confirm that we're at 48K, and you can see right there that we are. Close that out. We're going to go back up to setup into Playback Engine. You'll see where we're using the base drivers of the computer and at 1024 samples, and we have dynamic plugin processing going. All right, so we're going to scroll over here and take a look and see back to the beginning of the session here, and we'll start going through the plugins. We start with an EQ7, Then we're going to follow up that with a Pro compressor. Next up, it's going to be the Playback EQ. Then after that, we're going to go into real tape saturation. And then finally finishing up with deverb. So every one of these particular tracks in this session have all 5 of those plugins on it during playback. Now we're going to scroll down here and confirm the number of tracks we've got. As you can see there, we're going to be playing back 430 tracks, all with 5 plugins each at a buffer of 1024 at a 48K session, okay? So from here, we're going to kind of demonstrate and go over and show you the window there. Scroll all over so you can see the screen draw over there. There's very little lag, if any. If anything, it's probably a little optical illusion. And as we scroll back over, you can see again, we've got 430 tracks playing. And so now we're going to go back over to the edit window and we're going to hit play. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward through this so you don't have to watch this in real time. We're going to show Protools. We're going to show that we're running this in native version, not via Rosetta. This is the public beta that they've currently got out. And then we're also going to come over here and show you that Protools is also running in Apple Silicon native right now. So let's check out the playback engine. You can see we're at 1024 buffer. Then we'll go down to the session and you'll see that we're at 48K and we'll close that out. Now from here, we're over at the mix window. Let's get this back over to the beginning of the session here and go through the plugins and EQ7, Pro compressor, Playback EQ, real tape saturation, and then finally a deverb. So every one of these tracks has all 5 plugins on it, right? You can see right there, we have, it looks like 512 tracks, which is the maximum number of tracks that you can have. This machine could have easily done way more than that. So that just goes to show the power of it. You can see we could probably, at my best guess, probably get about 50 to 60 more tracks based upon everything that I had experienced in all of the tests. All right, so I'm going to fast forward to here. You can see that complete with no errors. Okay, so now that's maximum playback. What about record, as I talked about earlier? And the next set of videos is going to demonstrate recording. So if you needed to do an overdub or record a new track late into a mix, this is going to demonstrate that for you. So again, we're at 48K, and this time we're going to be dropping down the buffer down to 64. All right, and so we're going to demonstrate for you the maximum number of channels of playback with all of the plugins, as you've already seen before, all of those same plugins done at 48K, the maximum number of playback channels, while you can still record at a 64 buffer, which should be fine for any potential latency or really lack thereof. I think most people can easily get by with 64, depending on the drivers of your computer. You should be able to do it, not your computer, but your interface should be able to do it at 128, but there's a lot of variables that come into play on that. So let's get to those videos, and we're going to start out in Rosetta mode, and then we'll go to the Apple Silicon native version, the beta version app. Let's get to these videos. Here you can see we're in Pro Tools. We're going to go about this Mac and look at the specs here. Mac Mini Pro with 16 gigabyte of RAM, which is the base Mac Mini Pro model. And then here we're going to go into Pro Tools, and I'm going to show you where I'm using this in Rosetta mode. Later on, I'll show you the same session done in their beta version of Apple Silicon. Here you can see as far as the routing, we're going to demonstrate recording here, and we've got 375 tracks going on this. So we're going to be recording while 375 tracks are playing through all the plugins. Now, how I routed that is I came out of the output of one of the tracks and went to bus 1. And on the audio track I'm going to be recording into, I changed the input to bus 1. So that's how we're demonstrating the recording. Again, this is all without an interface, just doing the natural Mac drivers. Again, here you can see 375 tracks. We'll go up to the top. Let me go ahead and delete this real quick. I left that in there from something I was doing before. Here we're going to go into the session. I'm going to show you this. This is a 48 kilohertz session. Then we're going to audio playback settings, and you can see here we're doing it at its its base audio drivers of the Mac Mini, and it's 64 samples. We'll go ahead and hit record and play here, and as this is going, we'll kind of go through it. You'll see here in a second where I start scrolling up and down, so you can see that the GPU is doing an outstanding job of redrawing all of that. Again, 375 tracks are playing all at the same time, all with 5 plugins each. And you can see I can do the redraw here is almost instantaneous. There's a little bit of lag there, but not much. Now I'm going to go ahead and fast forward from here, and we'll get to the end, and you'll see where we recorded all the way through it with no errors. And that's it. For the record, this is a signal tone generator. That's all this is, so that I had audio playing the entire time. Okay, you see right here that I'm running this in the native version of Apple Silicon and not via Rosetta and Pro Tools beta version of that. We'll come over here and I'll show you the session just to confirm that again. We're at 48 kilohertz. And then we'll go up here to the playback engine and show you that I'm a 64 buffer sample. Going through the plugins, EQ7, followed by Pro Compressor, then a Pultec EQ, next up real tape saturation, then finally deverb. Again, we're going to be playing back and recording just a simple signal tone generator. Over here, we'll go over to the window and show you kind of where we're at with that. Let's go back over here. All right, and so that's playing on all of the tracks here, and there happen to be 512 tracks playing, and then hit play and record and let that go. Now, keep in mind, like I said before, we have a total of 512 audio tracks playing, each with 5 plugins each on every one of them. You can see here the screen draw is going fantastic, so there's really no lag there. Which shows that GPU is so powerful. Again, that says 511 tracks, but it's really 512 because you've got that audio track playing. So anyway, you can see here as we draw across there, there's a slight bit of lag in that, but that is about it. So you can clearly see that their native beta version is way more powerful than running in Rosetta. Now, here are my thoughts at the end of the day. If you're just doing audio and audio only, this is a massively powerful computer for the price, considering all in if you're a Mac user. You know, could you build a Windows PC just as powerful, if not more powerful, for the same amount of money? You probably could if you're on Windows, okay? But this demonstration is for a Mac, okay? So all you Windows users, take a chill pill, okay? Everybody kind of knows the deal. It always goes back and forth. Don't get touchy on me, okay? I have a lot of respect for Windows and Windows users, so this is not me saying one is better than the other. But this was a powerhouse beast. I can't imagine the average home recording studio ever pushing this thing to its max under current environment right now. Who knows later on, they may write more intensive plugins, things like that. But as of today, this thing is an absolute beast and should be able to handle anything that you need it to do. I think a lot of people watch videos on there saying if you upgrade the cores and everything, it starts pushing beyond the Mac Studio Max, which I think is probably accurate. If I were in that situation, I'd be patient a little bit longer if you're looking for the Mac Studio. Hold back and wait for the M2 version of that, because obviously you're going to get more power there too. So anyhow, hopefully you found this video helpful. If you happen to record it 96K, there will be a video following this, basically following the exact same format, except a different higher sample rate, okay? So do me a favor, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you think, also in the comments down below. I'm interested to hear what many of you have to say about this and what your thoughts and feelings are. If you happen to put this test and try it on your existing computer, throw your specs up there. Let other people see what you're getting. I'm a firm believer, never upgrade your computer until your computer simply will not do what you need it to do, because technology is always advancing. There's always something new, and if you don't need to upgrade, don't upgrade. But if you do, this is certainly a worthy upgrade, especially those of you coming from the Intel Macs, okay? Especially Intel Mac Minis, no question about that.